Yeah, the NBA. So game one happened yesterday. Game one did happen, and the Suns did happen to dominate the Bucks. Now, I do understand that the Bucks had Giannis, who was coming off of an injury, and I'm quite frankly surprised that he even started or played in the game.
Oh yeah.
Uh, that to me is insane. But what's wild is that I like the trend, which if you listen to Chris Broussard, he's one of my favorite NBA analysts, because he tells it as it is, and he's usually pretty intelligent and pretty on par for his descriptions. He basically said that this is on par for when they've played each other, the three times they've played each other this season, which is that the big three for the Suns, meaning Devin Booker, Chris Paul, and DeAndre Ayton, play very well and score a bunch of points. Both Chris Paul and Devin Booker are averaging 27 points a game in those three games, and DeAndre Ayton's averaging 20 points a game in those three games. So all three well over over 20 points. And then in those three games, the Bucks big three, which you basically can kind of count as like Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and then Drew Holiday, don't play as well, and they don't cover them as well. And as good of a defensive team as the Bucks are, they don't play very well covering the Suns. And part of the reason why, and actually Chris Broussard talked about this specifically, is that when the Suns run pick and rolls, which are traditionally a thing that gets a lot of teams points near the rim, because that's usually what they're trying to do is either get points near the rim or kick it out when the defense collapses. A lot of times that happens, and the mid-range shot is wide open, but teams don't take it because that's not the shot they're looking for. The Suns are perfectly happy taking that mid-range shot. Chris Paul loves that mid-range shot at the top of the key. So does Devin Booker. And the fact that both of them are able to make that at a very consistent rate means that those pick and rolls, you now have to honor the mid-range shot. Well, what happens when you honor the mid-range shot by having your center pull up to cover it? You leave DeAndre Ayton down low with somebody smaller and less capable of covering him. And DeAndre Ayton is a very talented center that can take advantage of that a lot of the time. And then the Suns have this perfect offensive cohesion where as long as they're hitting shots, they're going to be basically, running the floor with you on defense. And it allows the Bucks to not be able to do as much. And then the problem is that when the Bucks are expelling as much energy as they are on the defensive floor to try to stop this offense, they don't really have that on the offensive side, and that's why you saw Drew Holiday and Chris Middleton and Giannis really not play up to what they've seen or what we've seen from them before, because most likely their offense was lacking a little bit because either A, they weren't hitting their shots, B, they weren't tired, they were tired from playing defensively so hard, or a combination of both even, which is probably more likely the case.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's kind of a trend in this, in their past meetings with each other. So unfortunately, that looks like it could be the trend for the series. Do I think that the Suns are going to sweep the Bucks, which I actually put in my notes? No, I don't think the Suns are going to sweep the Bucks. I think the Bucks will end up pulling one, maybe two if they're lucky out of this series, and I think it's going to end with the Suns winning in Game 6 and winning the series 4-2. I apologize right off the bat to Aaron, our Bucks fan out there, as well as any other Bucks fans listening. But unfortunately, that's just the case. And watching the series, it does look like Giannis, that knee does bother him a little bit. And if it bothers him a little bit enough that he is a little slower on offense or a little slower even on defense, or he's just not quite as much Giannis, as he could be, then that affects the whole team, because if he's not doing what he's able to do as well as he can, that's not going to help Chris Middleton and Drew Holiday start to suddenly become better. So I do think that also plays a factor into it. Of course, health and injuries is not something that you ever want to talk about playing a contributor or contributing factor to why a team loses, because you always want them to play at full strength, so you know whether or not the team's better, or just not good enough. But in this case, I think injury does play a role, at least enough that unfortunately the Bucks are playing not at full strength, and I don't think that that's really going to change. So unfortunately, I really think that the Bucks are probably going to squeeze out a win or two, and then that'll really be it. And unfortunately, their season and them, finally getting a chance to win the title comes to an end. Now, obviously, hopefully, maybe they can capitalize on that come back healthier, stronger, and even better next year. But we, who knows? We unfortunately, with the way that the NBA works, it's with teams like this that don't have a LeBron, or something like that, where you expect him to be there almost every year. Same with like a Steph Curry, you know, it's difficult for those teams to get there every year, especially when, no offense, like I said, Giannis is kind of a flawed superstar in the sense that he doesn't have a great reliable shot that he can go to kind of keep the defense honest on him when he's driving most of the time. And then his free throw line performance is obviously not anywhere near where it should be for a guy that spends a lot of his time driving the lane aggressively and playing aggressively. So yeah, so that's just kind of my thoughts on it. I don't know if you want to add anything in there.
Jersey game straight up, the Suns are gonna win because damn, those jerseys look good. The Valley, especially in this picture, the Valley ones. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, no, the biggest thing I was following with this, I did have the game on, when I was watching it alongside the match yesterday. Um, I was most interested in Giannis's injury, obviously, because that was the big news headline as well. And I watched some of his like pregame work, and a lot of people were thinking it was going to be like a KD-esque thing where he comes back and like it looks like he's just hobbling and didn't look like it was going to
Yeah.
go so good. But his pregame stuff, I mean, he was like making decently hard cuts, making shots forward, like good movement, everything else like that. Um, yeah, I don't. I think I'm gonna stick with the same thing that we said at the beginning, or the beginning of when we started covering this, and it's just the Suns just had that sort of feeling this year. It feels like it's been their year.
Yeah.
Maybe if Giannis didn't get injured, I don't know, but it's gonna be hard to like I don't know come to terms with Milwaukee fans that like if there was a year for this to happen, and it seemed like it was going to be a pretty good competitive chance up until Giannis's injury, and obviously they have some other injuries. This would be the year for that, with all the injuries to other superstars and allowing some other people to actually get in at smaller market teams. This was a really really good shot. I don't know if this will be your best shot ever, but like it's gonna really sting. Um, I wish I had something else better to say other than that, but the time to get in and enter the finals was now. But we'll see.
Yeah.
There's still plenty of the series left, so be following that. Game 2 is tomorrow night at 8. So
Yeah. No, I mean, you're not wrong in anything you said there, and it's one of those where, yeah, unfortunately, this might be the only year that the Bucks get a chance to. I mean, I hope it's not the case, but it will be unfortunate if this is the only year that they make it. But they're still a very solid team, and Giannis could get better. He's still very, very young, obviously. So one of those where they could be a very good team in the next couple of years, and they will be. Whether or not they're good enough to make it to the championship, not sure. But yeah, I do agree that there's something about the Suns, and we've said that multiple times. And I do think that that's going to basically carry them to a win.